Hello, my most amazing artists! Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite things to do in art, weaving. If you look behind me, you can see 3 weavings on my wall that I'm currently working on. They're not done yet, but I love weaving. I've got one right behind me here, and I've got 2 right over here. So we're going to make a weaving at home, but what if you don't have any yarn? No fear, we can make weavings out of paper. So you're going to need 2 main supplies for this. The first main supply is you're going to need some paper. Any type of paper is going to work for this project. You can use construction paper, computer paper, newspaper or magazines. Even junk mail or flyers that you get in the mail will work. The other thing you're going to need for sure is a pair of scissors. Now, there's a couple other things you can use if you want to, but you don't really need them to make a paper weaving. One of them is a ruler or something that has a straight edge that you can get a straight line with, and glue. So you can use a glue bottle or a glue stick. But again, these 2 things you don't really need to make this paper weaving. They just help. Alright, let's get started making a weaving. Okay, so I've gathered up a bunch of different paper materials that I can work with. I've got some construction paper, I've got newspaper, I have a flyer from Shields that I got in the mail that opens up. Apparently they really want me to buy a bike. I've got the piece of paper that I've made when I did my how to make homemade watercolor paint. That video, you might have watched it. I also have a piece of white computer paper that I decorated with markers and put a couple designs on so that it wouldn't just be plain white. Now you need to have 1 piece of rectangular paper that's going to be your loom. And the loom is the part of the weaving that we'll be using to weave our paper strips into. You can pick a bigger piece of paper, a smaller piece of paper. It doesn't really matter. Just pick a paper that you really like. So I think for my loom, I'm going to use this really fun watercolor paper that I made with the homemade paints. And so you're going to take your loom paper and we're going to set it to the side because we're not going to do anything with it right now. So I'm going to put this over here. Now before we can begin cutting our loom and weaving the strips in, we need to prepare our paper strips. So I've got a whole bunch of them here already that I've cut, but how did I make them? So you can use whatever paper you have on hand for this, but make sure that your paper that you're using is the same size as your loom, or maybe even a little bit bigger so that when you cut your strips, they aren't going to be too small or too short. When cutting your strips, you can just go right in. I usually recommend cutting them like vertically or on the longer edge of your paper, so that they don't end up being too short and fall out of our weaving later. So I'm probably going to cut parallel with the longer edge, not the shorter edge. And you can just go right in and start cutting your strips if you want to. But if you want them to be super even and the same width, this might not be the best technique. Because some of them might be skinnier, some of them might be wider, some might have some crazy edges on them. So if you want strips that are all the same width and have nice straight edges, you might want to try this trick. And to make them have nice straight edges, you are going to either need to get a ruler out, or you need to get something that has a straight edge to try this. So I've got this huge ruler. It's kind of hard to work with, but it's the only ruler I have. And I'm going to make some paper strips. So again, I'm going to go with that. I want to make my strips on the longer, more vertical edge of my paper. I'm going to move these over. I'm going to take my ruler, and if you're a 4th grader, you've already done this before. And I'm going to kind of line up the edge of my ruler with the edge of my paper. And then I can take a pencil or a pen, whatever I can grab onto. And I'm holding that ruler down so it's not going to shift, and I'm going to draw a line down my paper, just like that. And then I'm going to move my ruler over. I'm going to try to line it up here. with the line I just drew and draw another line. So if you are a person that likes to have super even and consistent strips of paper, you can do this trick. If you don't care, you can just go ahead and cut with your scissors. They do not need to be perfect strips of paper. It does not really matter that much. So now I've got nice even strips of paper that I know will all be the same width, and I have a line now to kind of guide my cutting so I can be a little bit more neat. But again, this is optional. If you don't have a ruler at home, if you don't want to make even straight lines, you don't have to do it. And even if you don't have a ruler at home and you still want straight lines, you can use something that has a straight edge. Like this guy would work too. You can use the straight edge of that, a piece of cardboard, of a book, and you can draw lines as well. Alright, so what you need to do is start preparing some of your paper strips for weaving. You want enough strips that if you laid down your loom piece, you have enough strips that would cover the entire piece of paper from top to bottom. So right now what I would like you to do is be cutting up some strips. You can use a straight edge if you want to, but you don't have to until you have enough paper strips that you can reach the tops and bottom of our looms. And remember, our looms are going to be going the portrait way, vertically, not the landscape way. So you don't want to have them going from this way. It has to be this way. All right, get making. Okay, so I've cut up all of my pieces of paper. I've got lots of strips. I should have plenty to complete my loom. Some of them are thicker, some of them are thinner. I've got a variety here. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to gather up all of my paper strips. I'm going to move those to the side. I'll use them in a little bit, and I'm going to pull out my loom paper. Okay, so in order to create a loom, we're going to do a little bit of math. That's right, even in art class you need math. So I'm going to take my paper and I need to fold it in half. Now, it's really important that you're folding this in half, what I call the hamburger way, which means that I'm not folding it skinny like a hot dog. I want to fold it so it's a little bit wider like a hamburger. So I'm going to fold it in half this way. I'm going to line up my corners, make them high five, and I'm going to crease the bottom. Do the best you can. The fold does not need to be perfect. Now, first graders, second graders, you guys have all done this. Third, fourth, and fifth, I'm sure you've done this before. If you're in kindergarten or in 4K and you're trying this for the first time, it's really important you're paying attention to these directions. And maybe you have an older parent or sibling at home that can help you with this. So I folded it in half the hamburger way. It's opening up towards my belly like this. The folded edge is going to be our important edge. We are only going to cut on the edge that is folded. But I need to make something called my stop line. My stop line is going to remind me when I'm cutting that I need to stop and not cut all the way to the top of my paper and cut it in half. That would be bad. So I'm going to take the top layer of my folded piece of paper and I'm going to fold it back. This is kind of thick paper that I'm using, so it's a little harder. I'm folding it back just a little bit so I can see the bottom edge of my paper and I can see a little bit of a lip folded over. Can you guys see that? Your lip does not need to be super thick. It can be about the size of your fingertip. That's a good sized lip. Alright, now we're going to do some math. I need to cut this piece of paper in half, but not all the way. So I need to find the middle on my folded edge at the bottom. Is this the middle? No. Try to eyeball it, try to find the middle. Ooh, that looks pretty good. And if you need to, you can mark it with a pencil if you have to have help remembering that. So it kind of looks like both sides are pretty even. And I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to start to cut my paper in half. Now remember, we folded this line at the top. That is called our stop line. When your scissors cuts gets all the way up to where that fold is, you need to stop. Alright, here we go. Let's find the middle, and I'm going to start to cut. I'm almost to my stop line, and I'm going to stop. I did not cut past that line, so now I've made a pair of pants. Make your pants go for a walk. Alright, so now I have halves. I had a whole, and now I have two parts. That is a half. Now I'm going to take each one of my halves, and I'm going to start making something called fourths. So I'm going to take each pant leg, my first pant leg, and I'm going to find the middle of the pant leg. So now I'm looking at just this one pant leg. This looks about the middle. I'm going to make a little mark. Again, you don't have to make a mark if you don't want to. Now I'm going to look at this pant leg. I've got to find the middle. Now that I've found my middle of each pant legs, I'm going to cut my paper into fourths. So I have to start at the folded edge when I'm cutting, and I'm going to cut up towards the stop line, and remember, you need to stop when you get to that line. There we go. Congratulations, you just made a pair of pants for your dog. Dog's got 4 legs. Now we're gonna get really crazy. You can stop here at 4 if you want to, but if you want to go a little bit more intense, we are now going to cut this piece of paper into eighths, which means I'm going to take each pant leg that I made for my dog, and I'm going to cut each pant leg in half and make a pair of pants for my octopus. So we're going to be making 8 pant legs this time. So on each pant leg, I'm going to find the middle now, and I'm going to make a little mark. Here's the middle on this one, middle on this pant leg, and the middle on my last pant leg. Alright, I'm going to start cutting each of my dog's pant legs in half. Just remember to stop at your stop line. Whew. Alright, you guys did it! You made a pair of pants for your octopus! Awesome job! Now, if you struggled a little bit and you maybe accidentally cut past your stop line, you might have to try again with a new piece of paper, or if you have some tape, you can tape it up. Now here's the cool part. We are going to open up our looms, and we're going to see that it has all these cuts in it, but it's still one piece of paper. So let's open it up. Ta-da! Oh my gosh, look at that. Here is my loom. This will be what I use to weave all of my paper strips that I made earlier with. To learn how to weave in your paper strips into your loom and how to finish off and complete your weavings, you're going to have to visit the second part of this video titled Weavings Part 2. I'll see you in a minute.